Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code THPN. The Manscaped Performance 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little bit off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. So remember, get 20% off plus free shipping with the code THPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code THPN at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR. It's episode 213A. And it is a beautiful Thursday here in St. John, or in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland and Labrador, a suburb of St. John's. On July 11th and on July 15th, I will be in Montreal at the Chris Nyland Golf Charity Classic. We're raising money for the Liam Foundation. I'm just in and out. I'm in for that day and back here the next. So if you're in the area, you want to have a chat with some legends. I mean, this is the Montreal Canadiens we're talking about. So I'm sure, I haven't looked at the list, but I'm sure there's, and I mean, Knuckles Nyland has a Stanley Cup with them, played in their, arguably their last great era with some great players. That great would be an understatement, Hall of Famers. When Knuckles won it in 86, being the Stanley Cup, you know, there's a lot of guys still there from the late 70s, and you could make an argument the best team ever. Of course, there's a few teams that the Islanders won a bunch in a row around then, the Oilers, the Penguins, early 90s. Of course, I'm not saying that the Montreal Canadiens late 70s are the best team ever, but you could definitely make that argument. And a lot of them were still there when Knuckles won it. A lot of them are good buddies, or good buddies, I guess you could say. I just do enough of these events, right? And you see people at them, and you forget how many great Canadians there were. I mean, for example, I do a lot of these with Gary Leeman. And Gary Leeman had 50 for the Leafs. He had 50 goals, but he played for the Habs. He had a Stanley Cup 92, 93, and he's a 50-goal scorer in the NHL. And you kind of forget that, or at least I do a lot when you're immersed with Hall of Famers. I remember in Montreal and going there to play, and it's one of the first things I noticed. Now, of course, we didn't have glass like right behind the bench. I'm talking my first camp, even when we first went over to the Molson Center, there wasn't this big barrier between the fans. There was no glass right behind. So and a lot of the legends kind of sat there and milled around, and you could hear them. Even in warm-up, you come over to have a swig of water, and like these guys were right in front of you. I'm talking like John Beliveau. I mean, my assistant coaches were Yvon Cormier and Steve Shutt. Talking about those 70s teams. I mean, Cormier has, I think, 11 Stanley Cups. I think he has the most. Like 11 Stanley Cups. Right? So, like, these people, and a lot of them are from and settle in Montreal. You remember the Canadiens had a lot of great teams, and a lot of people who weren't fans of the Habs will tell you, well, they got free rights to every Quebec player for a large period of time. So, of course, they're going to be great. Quebec's one of the leading provinces or states or areas in the world that feeds into the NHL, right? But whatever the reasoning, I'm just saying a lot of these guys, and, the Habs have this tradition and unity amongst them, and they all support each other. So the point is, I mean, I've been traveling all over since January. A lot of people listen to this, and a lot of people are around Montreal and Toronto. Um, Even if you're in the States, I don't know, New England, Pittsburgh, Columbus, wherever the hell you are, it doesn't have to be an NHL city. It's just, these places I go to are well within range, right? And like I said, I get so many messages online. It's hard to keep up with them. But if it's interacting with players, myself, and some absolute legends, I mean, I understand my place in the game, and I'm happy with it. I'm ecstatic this many years later that the team that drafted me was the Montreal Canadiens, and I get to do this with some actual childhood heroes. And the Canadiens, the other thing is that I just remember it being a big thing. They didn't want any pricks around. Like, I remember them distinctly wanting me to, hang out with Vinny Damphousse. Koivu was young. He was a couple years older than me, but he was clearly going to be a leader. Corson. Just as much as go to grab a bite of pregame meal. After games, a lot of people, we did drink back in that era, probably more than they do now. But it wasn't always going out and getting tattooed. Like, I remember like some great memories from Montreal. Going out after maybe, there was a few places. Well, Shane had a restaurant, so courses, but we went DeSalvio, I think. Da Vinci, Gibby's, Buonanotte, Globe. There were Weinstein and Gavino's. There was a lot of places, like really nice restaurants that had a vibe that we would go after games. And it often, I mean, to be honest with you, I can count on one hand the times we just went out to the club. It might have happened organically a few times, like after one of those meals I'm talking about. But for the most part, it was meals with the boys, maybe some wine, always some beers. Most of them owned their team. They used to give us 100 dozen in the summer. Come back with. We had a good time, but it really, I mean, for the rules back then, right? Like our captain, our leaders, our captains, Stefan Quintal, I remember a guy, right? You don't remember him as being captain or anything, but I think he wore an A. I know that he was like one of the big leaders in the room, and he was big on that. It really taught me a lot about like the mature camaraderie. Of course, we hung out in junior. We had to. We played like hockey card knockdowns. I don't know. We played video games. We hung out Tri-City, especially. We didn't get into the bar. It was it was 21 to get into the bar in the States, obviously, as opposed to like Red Deer my last year when it was 18 to get into the States. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Sometimes if I don't catch myself, I wonder what I've said on here that's total bullshit. Not to get into the States. It's 18 in Alberta to get into the bar, okay? And my last year junior, I got traded to Red Deer after 5 years in Tri-City, being drafted at 14. So it was a completely different experience. Tri-Cities is, I mean, I believe it's 150,000 people. Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, around 150, probably more than that now. I'm going back. I played there in the 90s. But we used to joke, like, I don't know if there's an elevator, right? Like, it's very, very spread out. Very spread out. And it's not like a big bar scene. Even if you're, there's an extension. There's Columbia Basin College there, which I believe is affiliated, I know, with Washington State because I went there. So there is a young presence for sure. There's lots of families. It's a nuclear power plant there, right? So that's the main industry. But I remember being, lots of sports. And the Columbia River flows right through Kennewick on one side, Pasco the other. I lived in Pasco. It's a nice little drive. With my billets, I'm making a Mark and Nancy Eby. I'm going to call them today. Always say I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. Anyway, Tri-Cities was awesome. And I guess, we weren't angels. We had beers, but it would normally be, we met some girls in high school. They were a couple years older than us, and one had a trailer. And it was awesome. She was like the first, quote unquote, like adult that I hung out with down there. Adult meaning she was like 19, 20, old enough to have money for the trailer. And she had a decent job. I can't remember what it was, but Amy was her name. Amy listens to this sometimes because she shot me a note about a year ago. So thanks for listening, Amy. Amy and I dated for a little bit. It was a great time. Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Anyway, where was I? So we hung out in Tri-Cities, okay? Red Deer, like I said. Now, of course, oddly enough, Montreal came before Red Deer because, like, I made Montreal at the beginning of my 19-year-old year. And a lot of these experiences I told you happened in camp when I was 18. Definitely when I was 19. When I was 19, they kept me there to practice. I had a bad concussion. I would have played more, man. Fuck, that was a big thing. I don't talk about it, but I had a really, really bad concussion. And I missed a lot of that time because we had a bunch of injuries. But anyway, the point they said was for me to practice with the team. So I did more practicing than anything. I think I played 4 games that year. So I did get into the lineup. But more it was to learn, from the guys and everything. And getting back to the Red Deer thing, which was weird. So yeah, 96, 97, I played the first part of the year in Montreal right up until February. Then I went to Red Deer. So I went from Mount Pearl, Quesnel, which again, I love my buddies from there. I'll get into that in a second. And I just saw a bunch of them last weekend in Prince George. We still hang out when we can. We still speak, keep in touch. Love Quesnel, but it wasn't exactly downtown Toronto, right? So I went, Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, to Quesnel, to Tri-Cities, and then Montreal. So I traveled a lot, but I'd never seen anything like that, and going out after, and the guys I was going out in Montreal, I'm talking, I was 18, the camp, and then when I was 19, the half that year, right? And it was weird to go to Red Deer after all that, because Red Deer, I'm still playing in the same league as when I was in Tri-Cities, but I'd been to the NHL, and Red Deer's totally different. Like I said, you can get into the bar when you're 18, and everybody, they didn't give a shit, man, at Mort's and Billy Bob's and shit, man. We were in there. No one, they all knew we were the fucking rebels. They must have known that there's lots of people on the team 16, 17. And there were. We had like 10 guys, guys were 15 practicing. Colby Armstrong, Justin Mapletoft, it's junior. So I don't ever remember once anybody getting questioned at the bar. So it was a different culture in Red Deer. And I'd been up to the NHL, so I had a little bit of money in my pocket. But yeah, I just never had access to things. I remember Montreal going out and going Vinny, holy shit. Holy shit. I remember the girls, they would dress up to go to the grocery store in the middle of the day, and then they had that accent. And, I was hanging around with guys that were Canadians that people recognized. They didn't recognize me so much. They would recognize, fucking Shane Corson, Mark Recchi, Pierre Turgeon, Lyle Odeline. They're going to recognize these guys. So, and then these guys all had money. I signed, I'm going to tell you a funny story about signing. I'll tell you that next time. But I signed, right, I was 18. I went to camp. I wasn't signed yet. I got caught scalping my own tickets, actually. I got a bit of I don't know if trouble is the word, but it was my first scolding. I guess that's trouble. What are you doing, Terry? I said, guys, I make $60 a week. They ended up laughing, and they understood. And I can't remember. They gave me, they gave me a check. Anyway, I was out front scalping my own tickets because each hab gets 2 tickets before the game. I was offered $500, man. If you're 18 years old, $500. with my dad worked, my mom didn't for the most part to up to that point. I can't say she didn't work. She did, but she ended up, they lost money on that. She had to go back and work packing lotto tickets in a factory after that for for a decade and a half. But yeah, so I learning from Vinny Damphus and company. He was such an influence. I still wear the cologne. I remember the cologne came out that year, Jean Paul Gaultier, in a green like bottle. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about, TikTok, it just like took off again. The bottle is a male body, and it's eau de toilette, and I've only used that ever since. I've only used it. That's how much of, because Vinny would carry himself. I know the ladies really liked him, and maybe being the captain of the Canadiens was a big reason for that. But I just remember he handled himself really professionally. And I remember saying, you can get drunk without making a fool of yourself, like Vinny does. Like Vinny would sit there. He reminded me of Clint Eastwood in his spaghetti westerns, or any real western with a or a hero or anti-hero that doesn't speak a lot. If you'll notice Clint in a lot of his movies, he says a lot by not saying it, right? It's a lot of the eyes and the movements and the mannerisms, right? He doesn't speak a lot, but you listen when he speaks. Well, I mean, I only met John Beliveau a couple of times, and Beliveau was kind of like that, like commanding the presence. But Beliveau, I didn't see drink that much. I guess maybe Molson's in the alumni room, like, because there was, but I don't associate meeting those guys. It was always like in and around the dressing room. Sometimes there was beer, sometimes there wasn't. But I remember like going to the bar with Vinny Damphus, a restaurant usually, and then we'd go wherever from there. But and he just had this professional, commanding presence about him. And of course, more than once, we got drunk. But yeah, he just handled himself. I'm always life of the party, and to me, getting drunk or it was like after a goal, like any time that I got excited or was let loose to kind of joke or be loosey goosey with my friends, and because to me, yeah, like whatever I'm going to do, I want to have fun doing it. And you're just starting to deal with alcohol. It's a good thing I didn't have where, who knows? There's lots of people that went in a dark place in the NHL, and if I had been around any of them, I was easily influenced. I'll tell you that. You look at Chicklets for that, right? I mean, when I'm on Chicklets, I'm a little bit different person than I am right now than I am on Shoresy or whatever, and I'm fine with all that. And Chicklets are great. I just mean, obviously, there's probably going to be more partying when I'm with them. Well, imagine if you're in your young days and you're being influenced by a guy that you looked up to that you find out is a total buzzhead substance abuser, right? But I slipped through those cracks. I was easily influenced, but those people weren't. But they did like to have a good time. They could just do it while being professional. And you got to do that in Montreal. You can't be out beaking people or, I don't want to put this the wrong way. You're free to do whatever, but, a few times just going out, I remember like dancing at Thursdays and kind of making a fool out of myself. And even then, course going, you might want to, you don't have to be so obvious with the girls. Like they're probably going to come talk to you, like, because I remember being like, this is crazy. These, again, downtown Montreal to me as a 19-year-old was just wild. It's still wild, but anyway. So these people handled themselves so professionally. So, and whenever any of them asked me to do anything, and Knuckles was there, but he'd just retired. And what's great about it, getting back to Knuckles Nyland, I'm going up to his tournament. Knuckles, I loved growing up. Like when I watched the Habs, because he was relatable to me. The era I'm growing up, like the Habs won in 1986. A lot had to go right there. Steve Smith for the Oilers. Oilers were in the middle of a dynasty, and Steve Smith scored on his own net, I believe, in Game 7 setting up Calgary versus Montreal, and then Montreal won. Patrick Waugh came into the league. It's probably, his biggest legendary story, I think, is coming in as a rookie and leading the Habs to a cup, and they won a bunch of games in overtime. Anyway, it was a very exciting run they went on. But I love Knuckles had 21 goals. People remember him as this tough guy because he was. And then, when he came out with his story maybe 10 or 15 years ago and he got sober and people saw what he was going through at the time, I think the whole booze, drugs fighter got pushed on everybody so much. For a good reason, because there's people out there with substance abuse issues or mental health issues that needed to know all those things. And Knuckles was a great fighter, but the thing is, he'll tell you, he's like, I was more of a defender. I'm more of a defender, Terry. I was more of the defender, and it's true. He was a defender. He didn't go out just fighting for no reason. He was either pissed off for some reason, or he was picking up for a teammate. And he had 21 goals. And then if you look on the playoff run, I can't remember, but I know he had significant. It's not like they went into the playoffs. And, usually if you're a quote unquote goon, I hate that word, but, you probably won't play as much. But Knuckles was an important player on an important team. If he wasn't there, they wouldn't have won it. He was a big, big part. And I looked up to him. And I guess looking back, I met him at a bar called Cheers in Montreal on McKay or Mackay. I'm not sure how you say it. MCKAY. Anybody from there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's about 2 or 3 streets down, parallel with Crescent Street, perpendicular with St. Catharines. And Lyle Odeline used to hang in there, man. And I'd go back and I'd play a game with Odie and the bartenders called Pigs. And you had 3 pigs and you'd roll them. And there was different ways, however many legs were pointing up. So you'd add up, you get, I think, a maximum of 12 points. However many, you rolled, other people had to do shots. So we'd sit there drinking, shooting the shit, and taking turns paying for shots.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. With DraftKings, you can bet on any game you want. Whether you want to bet the puck line or the over-under, DraftKings has something for everybody. And if you want, you can throw down on your favorite player as an anytime goal scorer. Or if you're looking for a long-term bet, maybe you want to predict the Stanley Cup champion. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
Especially, I remember, even though I was, we're talking about a brief part of my life, usually, I think it still works like this, but I remember usually we had Sunday off because Saturday night, the Habs and the Leafs, and I guess every Canadian team, I never really paid attention to, but they're going to play on Hockey Night in Canada. At least I remember it being that way back then. I don't pay attention now to when all the games are. And of course, now there's Wednesday night hockey and Monday night hockey and everything else. And, it's not as unique anymore to tune in on Saturday night and watch. But when it was, which wasn't that long ago, yeah, we would normally end up with the Sunday off. So a lot of the shenanigans would happen. If there's going to be shenanigans, and that's as much of a quote unquote club. Cheers was like a pubby bar. What's Cheers? It was what you see in the TV show. It was an extension of that. Even the sign, Mark Cannon was his name. He ran it, and even the sign was Cheers. So it was trademarked, obviously, but it was that style. It was there were nights that there was loud music and people would start dancing, but you wouldn't think I'm going to go clubbing and go to Cheers, right? But so that's where I spent most of my time if I was going to drink in Montreal. If not, it was always at one of those other restaurants. The odd time Thursdays on Crescent Street, but again, that's like Chairs. And those who have been there is a little place to go downstairs and dance. We wouldn't really go there. We'd go upstairs with same thing, food, drinks, tables, and a lot of dancing would kind of break out around that just because the vibes were great. But that's usually what we did in Montreal. Anyway, Knuckles, I met him at Chairs one night. And I remember he came over and shook my hand. And this would have been when he was in the middle of all that. I mean, Knuckles, you check out the story. If you don't know it, he's involved in a few. His book is called Fighting Back, and it'll fucking make you laugh, make you cry. You think my book was good? You're tuning into this now thinking my book was good? Go out immediately and get Fighting Fucking Back by Chris Nyland. Holy shit. And then there's one, I think it's Hockey Gladiators, and then there's another one. I forget the name. They all run together in my mind. I've seen them all. So you watch those with Knuckles, and you'll see that in the 90s he was going through a hard time, but he didn't ever portray that to me. I didn't. It seemed to me like Knuckles was. It always seemed to me like he'd had 3 beers in him. Right now, I look back, he probably had fucking a 26er in him. Who knows how many beers, and fucking 2 or 3 different kind of drugs. But he didn't portray that, and he. I remember him being just. I was so fucking happy when he came over and introduced himself. And things like that go a long way. And Knuckles, I'm telling you, like when I fell out of favor with the Canadiens and I didn't go back to camp, it was my own fault. I'll always say it. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but whenever I say it, I got to say the reason was Michel Therrien. It wasn't anything to do with anybody else with the Habs. And I'm friends with Reggie Hull now, who was the GM, who I think should have played me more, but it's water under the bridge. I did have a concussion, a high ankle sprain. I mean, I didn't make it easy on myself. I didn't go back to camp. So I'm certainly taking my share of the responsibility, of where my legacy is in Montreal. But, there was a reason. I'm not blaming, but the reason was Michel Therrien. It was nothing else. I loved Montreal. And I never forgot people like Knuckles that, you can imagine what it felt like for me, man. And I know I don't give a fuck what people say. I know I could have played and been a good player. I mean, I did it. I went down to the minors again, rookie of the year. I got up to play. I mean, I know what the stat line would say, but I was in those games, and I know that it wasn't too fast. I remember getting pretty excited. I didn't play much. I didn't expect to play much. But I remember going, okay, especially exhibition was one thing. One year, I think I had 5 points in 8 games, and I was really rolling. But that was the 19-year-old year. So, I felt like there was unfinished business. But whatever the case, the one thing I don't have is a fucking time machine, right? Once I busted that ankle, I knew I wasn't getting back. I felt so bad about all of it, about how I left Montreal, about how I left fans here at home that were cheering for me. And, people like Knuckles immediately started calling me to go out on these alumni trips. And I was like, come on, they don't want me to play on the alumni. He's like, yeah, they do. People don't hate you because of a bad decision. Some people might, but there was a reason we drafted you. And you're a great guy, great hockey player. Come on out. He said, and the bonus thing is you don't have to worry about taking hits or getting in fights in these games. He went out of his way, man, to make me part of it. And before Ted Hitchcock or Spittin' Chicklets or my books or any of that shit, I'm talking like early. I mean, I was done pro in 2003. I'm talking like 2004, 2005. I'm sorry, like immediately. I got a call from Steve Schutt. Steve Schutt was my assistant coach up there. Knuckles, who I just met, but he seemed to be in my corner. And I was like, I can't believe these guys want to have anything to do with me. But they understood life is life, hockey's hockey. And Chris made me realize that, there's Knuckles Nyland and then there's Chris, right? And Chris is still a good friend. So when he asked me to go to this thing on Monday for the Liam Foundation, the foundation check into it near and dear to his heart, you can donate now online. That's why I said I'm doing it. Fuck this. I do have a busy, I don't know if I've got to go and start up on Shoresy 4 here pretty soon, probably. if things go according to plan. So I'm going to be prepared accordingly. And I have another couple of movies coming up, and my daughter has Atlantic, so it's in summer games. So I'm coming up into a very, very big, important time of the year in not just work, but in play, in family, everything. But Chris Knuckles Nyland asked me to do this. 10 years ago, well, my book was coming out. 15 years ago, for sure. 10 years ago, a little bit. But 15 years ago, he would have asked me to do this to include me. No one would have been beating down my door, bidding on me at the golf tournament. He would ask me to, I guess some people did, but, I was the low part of the totem pole for good reason. Because, again, we go to these things and, like, half these people there tomorrow will be in the Hall of Fame or on Monday. So trust me, when Knuckles was first asking me, he was doing it to include me, to be a good guy. But now he's asking me, and I can go up and actually raise some money because of Ted Hitchcock and the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs and Shoresy. And because of Chicklets. And now, more people have read my books because of all these things. So now I'm more relevant, and he's asking me as a favor now. And the answer will always be yes to those people that stuck by me. Easy to have friends when you're on top of the world, man. Those friends that stick with you when things are bad, and I mean really fucking bad, right? I was always confident I'd get back. I didn't see an injury happening. And when my ankle got injured, I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't have that step to lose. I'm definitely not getting back now. Now who's going to be your buddy? Wasn't so many people coming to the door. Wasn't so many people, let's hang out, TR. Hey, you want to do this? It wasn't so many people hanging on. In fact, a lot of people went the other way. Don't want to be seen with this guy. Not Chris Knuckles Nyland. So, long way around it, but I will be in Montreal. There you go on Monday. We got Best Kind Party. My buddy Brent Mack has Best Kind Party here in Mount Pearl. It's great. It's a music food festival. Looking forward to that. And I want to thank everybody in Prince George. We had a great time out there, by the way. And listen, Lindsay Hamilton probably doesn't listen to this, okay? But she's an absolute fantastic commentator with TSN. She is well-spoken, pretty girl, really positive vibes all the way. So, and I knew who Lindsay was, obviously, being a Canadian, sports fan, and, working on the Gregor show. I watch pretty much, I don't want to say every, but a lot of the Canadian feeds. I like to mix up my news, but by that I mean, like, I might go Sportsnet Winnipeg, TSN Vancouver, different private podcasts across the nation. I like to inform myself because I'm meeting these people at these events, right? Especially when I see when I'm going to meet someone for the first time. And I'll check out, but anyway, I knew who Lindsay was before all this. But we got paid to go out there. And when I say that, we're raising money, okay? So I wouldn't think of taking more money than I was going to raise. So I think people sometimes confuse. Like, if I'm going to go speak at a corporate event, I'm going to charge more money than I'm going to this. But I'm flying across the country. It is a fundraiser. So what happens is people bid on you, you golf with them, and then you raise money. That's why you see me jumping in the pond and shit on hole 17. And, or if you see me like promoting a drink or something, it's because they sponsored the hole or the tournament I'm at, right? People look at that and wonder what it is. That's what's going on, right? We're raising money as the day goes. So anyway, but part of my job was to be MC. But I got out there, and a lot of my buddies came up from Quesnel. Great to see you guys, by the way. Curtis Fenton, Chris Spencer, and Kurt Lowe, Farmer, we call him. Kurt Farmer Lowe. Guys that, man, I played with when I was 14 years old. I went out there, and we're still buddies. I hadn't seen them in a while. I like to go back to Quesnel, but it had been like a decade. At least, I think it had been 12 years. In the 12 years previous, I was there probably 4 or 5 times. But whatever, life gets busy. And a lot of that time when I didn't have a lot of money to work with, I wasn't spending it to travel across the country. It takes a day to get there. It was 22 hours on the way out and 20 back, because I go here to Toronto or Montreal, and then it goes on to Vancouver. Just Montreal or Toronto to Vancouver is 6 hours in itself. And then, you got to wait to get up to Prince George. So that's Vancouver. So there's waits in these airports, and then usually there's a stop. It's a puddle jump. So, I arrived almost a day after I left here. I mean, it's a ways. But I also absolutely love the area. I really do. And I mean, part of my childhood's there. That's where I went to high school, man, in Quesnel. It's just an hour south of Prince George. It was great to see these people. But so Lindsay is so well-spoken. And so when we get up on stage, because, again, we have to introduce all the players, us being two of them. And there was another guy, you know what? I got to press pause. His name was Danny, and he was great. And he was an auctioneer kind of guy. And I'm not doing the story justice. Sorry, I got to press pause because he deserves credit. This guy was awesome. Okay. I can't find his name. I'm sorry. I really am, because he had a big part to do with the night. He was awesome. And my point in all that, and I guess there's a reason I kind of fucked up here. So I didn't realize I was going to be emceeing. And here these people took me out there. Now, my job, these guys, Danny and Lindsay, so they were really, if it wasn't for them, I would have been lost. But I just got up on stage, and they were carrying the night. They were stirring the stick. They were the stir stick that was stirring the drink. I was just up there commentating. So they'd go through a big monologue and then say, "Oh, now next up is Eric Brewer." And I just say a few comments. Obviously, played for Team Canada. He was over 1,000 games without even thinking about it. One of the biggest Prince George Cougars ever, like literally and figuratively. Whatever it was, I just think of something. And then once in a while, people were buying me all kinds of drinks. And, I'm having a drink. And, once in a while, I'd throw in a generic "give your balls a tug." Everybody would laugh. And then Danny and Lindsay would go back to actual work. So, and then the next day, same thing. Like the tournament starts at 10, but I'm up, even though we had some drinks, I'm up at 5 because, I get up early anyway here in Newfoundland. It's 4.5 hours earlier, right? Out there. So, it's 9:30 in the morning for me, which isn't really, to me, that's getting up a little late, but it's 5 in the morning out there. So I was up bright and early. I went over to the course. I mean, people are there, but the group that bid on me, what happens is that, there's so many quote unquote celebrities, hockey players, whatever you want to say. A lot of the like I said, Brewer, Ronald Petrovicki was there, Tyler Broff, like a legend who didn't go on and play, I don't think, a long time in the NHL, but, a local legend. So guys like that, and girls and men and women and children and all kinds of, there's all kinds of things going on. And yes, children, there was activities there for kids. There was not so much on the golf course. That was an adult thing, but it was a very Cougar. It was a junior hockey themed. What would you see if you went to a junior hockey rink, right? Of course, there's going to be some booze. There's going to be fundraisers, but there's going to be games and food and drink and fun and music. It was just a celebration of hockey and a fundraiser. So anyway, I'm there again early. My buddies come. Oh, Stewie Malgunas, one of my good friends from I played with in Utah years and years ago, was there. Stewie looked great too. And Ronald Petrovicki played with him in Tri-Cities. So this is what's happening, is that the group that drafted me paid good money. Okay, I think it was $8,000 or $9,000. So I would golf with them. Okay. So, which is great because it was an awesome group. Aaron Stack, by the way, the Stack man. Great to see you. Thanks a lot. I went with Aaron and his group, and they were all either liquor or beer reps, or they owned their own company. I forget what we were called, the liquor inspectors or whatever it was. They had a name for our team. But the boys had fucking their own golf carts, Ferrari golf carts with the coolers built into the seat with the huge. I've had stereos on the golf course. These things were huge. It was so awesome, the setup that we had. So before it starts, the boys bring over a beer, and my job, part of it, is to tell stories. So I was like, I'll lay off the booze till like hole number 9 or 10. And the boys are like, fuck that. We drafted you for a reason. We're going to have a good party today. So we're over there. I'm telling stories about God knows what. They want to hear the Milbury story, the Teeth story, and this is leading to other stories. And Stewie Malgunas is there, and my buddies from Quesnel. So there's all kinds of great stories that are being connected. And Eric Brewer is friends with the Van Horlicks, who I lived with for a spell in Kamloops way back when I first went out west and stayed there for the summer. And just a great time. And then I realized Lindsay and Dan are on stage, and they're like, and I'm supposed to be up there emceeing. So I'm like, again, I go up. I don't even know what they're talking about. No, I don't mean from being drunk yet. I had a couple of Baileys and coffee at this point. But, I mean, I don't know where they are in the conversation. I don't know the agenda. Like, certain holes have certain, the hole in one on hole 3, whatever it is, will get you a new car. Closest to the pin, furthest drive, there's all kind. And then you can buy mulligans, right? It's a fundraiser. So, again, I'm kind of winging it. The people I'm with, said, yeah, they donated like an extra $2,000 if I jumped in to the water. So I was just going around trying to get people, come on, let's do a shot, getting a bunch of people. You want to hear a story? Okay, let's get the shots first. I'm doing that. I'm raising money that way. But I don't really know, again, because usually it's the same format and I'm there to do that. But, the MC tag, I just didn't fully embrace it, and I apologize. Now, everybody had a good time. I know that the organizers weren't upset. I know they were happy with the way things turned out. But I guess this is less of an apology and more of a thank you to Danny, and I'm going to correct myself the next podcast because this guy was fucking awesome. You know what I mean? If you're an auctioneer, he's that guy. Right? Like just commands presence in a room. And in between, items that were being up for auction, he would have the crack jokes and everything. And then Lindsay would set up the next bit that we were going to do or not bit that we were going to do. Yeah, I guess you could say. Because we went there's the introduction, few jokes, whatever. And then, there were people that we were raising money for Northern BC's healthcare system. So, they need extra MRI machine, I know they were saying. So we were raising money for things like that. So it wasn't just hockey players. There were doctors on stage that maybe went to Cougars games that enjoyed the games, but they were there to talk about the medical field. The whole draft thing, so there was, I think, at least 18 of us, but I think there was a couple more. And that then we're auctioning off actual items, not just players, like items. So there was a lot going on. But I just basically went up and winged it while they must have practiced. They had a whole script and everything. Now, I did, like I said, so thank you to Lindsay and Danny. But I kind of, looking back, I really should have read the fine print. And I know it worked out, but I really appreciate your guys' hard work because my inadequacies in that particular event were well masked, and I don't think anybody even realized it. And the organizers had a blast. Everybody was cool. And really, I was just having a good time with no plan. And I know that Lindsay and Danny sacrificed because they had to actually have their shit together and couldn't be doing tequila shots and everything while we're having the event because they had to keep it together. And, there was a whole section there Shoresy fans that, the way that gets, and the Spit and Chiclet fan, right? So I was there, I think, to appease or entertain them as much as I was to mingle with everybody. I think the people there knew that there was a group there that were going to probably want to be entertained by, the version of, Ted Hitchcock, for lack of a better way to put it. But anyway, it was a fucking awesome time. It really was. And thanks to everybody, my buddies especially, for taking the time to come see me, and the people that brought me out there. Tyler Broff, I mentioned him earlier. Just a great fella. I know he had a lot to do with me coming out there, and they not only did they treat us well. I was in an awesome hotel for the weekend, the Pomeroy. Just from the meals to the people, to the venues. Just a fucking unbelievable time. And I appreciate the golf shoes. I don't golf much. I suck, but I see it in my future more and more now. I do enjoy it. And my daughter's 14 now, not 4. So there's more time. If it comes to one or the other, I'm always going to pick ball hockey, right? That's my pride and joy. And you could argue that I'm a ball hockey player over an ice hockey player at this point. Meaning it's been a huge part of my life and continues to be. And if I'm not out there playing like I was last night with the Masters team, I'm often out coaching or helping Jeremy Bishop or Mike Dyke or whoever coach. And, so, but there is now, I can get up and go golfing in the morning and not worry that Penny Lane is going to smother on her pillow kind of thing, She's 14. Anyway, thanks for listening. And I think I'm going to have Senior tomorrow. I got a few possible guests, but I don't think James Duthie, and he wants to do the show, and he's a great dude. He just, I just watched that Canada-Argentina game. By the way, I thought Canada did awesome. Soccer, I'm talking about football, I suppose, for most of you. But what was I talking about? What the hell was I talking about? I'm not sure. Why would I talk about the game? Canada-Argentina. Anyway. Oh, Jesus, yes. So Duthie, and I mean, he's on the panel for that too. He was hosting. I was like, shit, I forgot that he did all that. So you know what? I'm going to take a break from asking any of my media friends. That's who was going to come on this week. I was going to have Ken Reed on again, or Chris Johnson said he was going to do it. James Duthie said he was going to do it. Pierre McGuire, right? So I got people, Tim Peel, I got people that I'm real interested in having on here. And I just thought about it. I'm like, man, it's finally all over for them. Maybe give them a week or two. I think that's the play here. So right now I'm going to take my daughter out for a pregame meal. And I think tomorrow I'm going to have Senior on for maybe 5 or 10 questions, guys. If you've got any, please send them to me on Twitter. And I'll go from there. But listen, I put out 2 a week, so there's never really like an end of the season for me. Maybe I'll take a break soon. I don't know. So as much therapeutic as anything, I like flipping open the computer and talking about my experiences. I really do. So this part to me is not like work. I'm blessed that way. And in that, I have people like blessed being not religious. You know what blessed means? I believe in karma, and a lot of good people help me get this podcast off the ground and help me promote it. Knuckles Nyland's another one of them. He has an awesome podcast. It's called Raw Knuckles. Check it out. But that's what I mean. I mean, thank you to all you people that make this happen. I listen to other podcasts and TV shows, and they're like, they have an end of the year. And maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll have Senior and Ken Reed on tomorrow or something and talk about maybe our favorite plays of the year or moments, something like that. But the point is, I don't really have a starting and an end point for this. And if I did, I would thank everybody at the end, of course. And I would wish everybody luck at the beginning, and whatever I was going to do in between, I'd do. But I don't really have an end point. So to all you guys that are tuning in, especially to these episodes, to these episodes, you guys are gritty. Whoever is still listening at the end, in the 46th minute of an A episode, I fucking thank you guys. And I wish there was some way. To thank each and every one of you specifically. The A listeners are the gritty listeners. Anybody can listen to a B episode. Anybody can listen to fucking Brian Scrudlin tell a story, Chris Nyland. But to listen to me ramble on about Mount Pearl, Quesnel, Vinny Damphouse's Cologne, Prince George, Matty Van Horlick, Ronald Petrovicki. You guys are the grit, and I appreciate it. Folks, if you're out down St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador, you want a bite to eat, go to Blue on Water, and, of course, Loose Tie. If you're around the East End, of course, you check out Peter Wedgwood, Wedgwood Cafe. They also do catering. If you want to go to a bar and you want to go to George Street and check out all the action, where do I go on George Street? I go to Trinity Pub. I go to Rob Roy Confusion. I go to the Martini Bar. I go to TJ's Pub, Greensleeves, or the Bull and Barrel. If I want to change my life, if I was out there right now and I was a big fat fuck and I wanted to change my life for the better, I'd look no further than Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane. Strength and balance for the body and mind. If I wanted to go to Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations here in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Torbay Road, one's on Cameron Road. Live, laugh, loop. Pipple Pain Relief, pain sticks that just don't quit. Go to pipplepainrelief.com, see what all the fuss is about. Mugsy Jeans. Stretchy, comfortable. Why not Mugsy? Why not today? Of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Folks, be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR. Thanks for listening.